So lucky in this job, to cover all of those big royal state visits. And they are fascinating because we do it well, all the ceremonial garb that goes with it. And you can see the foreign visitors, the dignitaries, are really impressed that we've made such an effort to welcome them into this wonderful country. And of course, it's always more impressive, isn't it? Particularly if you like the British royal family or indeed Great Britain itself. And as we know, many people are very aware that the former president of the United States, the 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, was a huge supporter of the British monarchy. So much so, in fact, that he's threatened to hoof out. This could be problematic, couldn't it, for Meghan and Harry? If he returns as president at the end of this year, well, apparently he's going to be casting an eye over the problems that many people so far have turned a blind eye to, some suggest. Now, what's recently happened is that the former First Lady, Melania Trump, has released her memoir. And a lot of, critics have been very negative, but it's selling very well, simply because there you have a woman who never expected to be inside the White House, never expected to be a First Lady, but because of default, marrying, whatever, romance, you name it, it happened. And it's fascinating to think that in that particular role, as we've seen by so many former First Ladies, they literally move into this echelons of life that we only read about. Now, as I said, when Melania and Donald Trump came over to the United Kingdom to Windsor, I was there when they had afternoon tea with our late monarch, Her Majesty the Queen. And I've told you many times before, she'd seen it all, right? She was not fazed by Donald Trump whatsoever. Yes, his ego landed on the lawn alongside Air Force One's helicopter. But the bigger real story was behind the scenes and a friendship that truly developed off camera. Let me explain. Good to see you today on this wild and windy day here in London town. Always nice to have your company. I hope you're keeping well, whatever you're doing. And yet, I just really wanted to share this story because that's my perspective of what it was like, sort of behind the scenes. A lot of people were very nervous. Not, of course, the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen, who had, as I said, met many, many First Ladies and, of course, presidents before. Nothing fazed our wonderful monarch. It must have been good to have that sort of personality, though, don't you think? To know, well, you've kind of seen it, does it really matter? And people were very sort of speculative as to how well Donald and the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh would get on. But it's a surprising friendship that went behind the scenes, particularly for the former First Lady Melania. In her book, and what many of us have known in the media already, is the fact that a very fast and quick friendship truly did develop, which carried on with letters back and forth. Now, the reason being, a lot of people are saying, oh, she developed a good friendship with the Queen. Yes, she got on well, and I can tell you the reason why Her Majesty liked Melania, because she understood the story that clearly this wasn't a role that she'd set out or thought was going to happen to her. A little bit like Her Majesty the Queen. When she was young, she had no idea the narrative, of course, that would take her life to being the Queen. She didn't plan on it. Nobody could have known. And then, of course, we all know what happened with the abdication. That's why she had a lot of time and a bit of soft touch for Melania. But the Queen was very touched with the way that Melania sat at great length and held a long conversation with the late Duke of Edinburgh, making sure that he felt part of the group, not left out, and showing a lot of interest in particular to his very famous Land Rover. And that's really what happened behind the scenes. A friendship developed from that, and they carried on, literally just sort of, back and forth with brief notes and things like that. And according to her source, basically the monarch found her absolutely delightful, with no airs or graces, and very supportive. As for Donald, she said, he's a handful, isn't he? And apparently Melania just laughed, rolled her eyes and said, you've noticed. But then the Queen, and I'm quoting here, said, but aren't all men? And then they both laughed and walked off together. It's nice to know the barriers were broken and a friendship truly did develop. So while many critics might not, whether that be Dr. Jill Biden or whatever, behind the scenes, friendships can develop. Politics are moved to one side, and then they literally just become two people in very important roles. Always happy to share these other stories with you. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.